promises never fail. I've got stories I live to tell, so I pour out my praise again. You're worthy, God, you're worthy of all of it.
Jesus, we love you. We thank you for your Son. We thank you that you have saved us, Lord God, and we just thank you that you are about to let us experience something miraculous, and that is going and serving and being the hands and feet of Jesus and introducing people to that name, but also just meeting people right where they're at, Lord God. We just pray a prayer of blessing and safety and comfort over this trip. Anyone who's staying, that their anxiety and their stress about the trip is relieved, and you give them peace, Lord God. Everyone going, any nerves, Lord God, that you relieve those in Jesus' name, knowing that you are going to be with us and holding us in the palm of your hand as we go out and serve like you serve, Lord God. We love you, we thank you, and we just pray that you give us opportunities to witness and to be witnesses for who you are, Lord God. We love this. We love you. We love the opportunity to do this. We pray this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Amen. All right, all right. Kurt Sigmeister, did you know that we have Germans joining us on the TVs over there? Annika, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Lovely, lovely. All right, so welcome guys. So excited for tonight. It's not going to be too late of a night, but we did want to meet together to kind of get the core group. I know we're missing a couple people that are going to get this video, but because on the first meeting it was kind of big story, why are we going, and then this is more of like what we're going to be doing and some logistics. The next meeting is going to be actually a FaceTime call with one of the missionaries down there. I'll talk about that in a second. And then the meeting after that is actually like a training. Like, how do we act? What are the cultural differences? What should we wear? What should we pack? I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. But that's like we're getting closer to going. That's that meeting. Tonight's more vision. It's vision. It's what we're going to be doing. And then we're going to end. And this is why I love that you guys are on, Annika and Matt. We're going to end with like discussion. Like we have some opportunity to like come up with some ideas, to brainstorm about what we want to do specifics. You'll see from the talk, there's some open-ended, we get to decide. And I'll tell you about that in a second. So long story short, Guatemala is an amazing country. It's Spanish influence. You'll love this, Maria. And we're not going to spend any time in Antigua. Antigua is that ancient city that was established like 600 years ago. The cobblestones are the same cobblestones of 600 years ago. But what happened was there was conquistadors who came in, and there were Mayan culture, and it was fighting, and groups got isolated. Mayan groups got isolated, and so when missionaries started going in the 1900s, they realized there's a huge Spanish Catholic population in the big cities, and then there's these unreached people groups all throughout. They're all like Mayan Indian descent, all speaking different languages, and so the family that we're going to go be a part of their mission, they're kind of a group of people who moved there in the 80s to reach people. And so the Lewises, Michael and Tanya, is this couple who moved into San Cristobal. Is that right? There you go. All right. And it was a nothing town. A couple 10,000 people, and in the highlands and the rainforest, and they established a mission. They started in a one-room school that they built, and they slept there at night, and during the day kids came and they started offering classes, they started doing church services, and over 30 years they've built a massive mission that has school of all ages. I think it's K through 12. They have a church, a massive auditorium that seats like 200, 250. They have a basketball court that's really a soccer court. They don't really play a lot of basketball there. They have the basketball hoops. They have multiple mission homes, some of which the families live in, and then a large missionary home that all the missionaries who come visit stay in all together. And then Miss Tanya has developed extensive relationships with all the villages, which is a lot of widows, a lot of women who lost their husbands in the civil wars of the 80s and 90s. And so that's the big picture. So why do we have a connection? So Jed, who some of you guys know, Jed was a part of our old church he grew up in Guatemala, and so when our church closed here during COVID, he and his wife moved back. So they've been back there for a couple years now, and Jed is pretty much taking over the next 10 years, 15 years, this mission. And so we've been close with them for a while. I got to go visit him. And this trip has kind of developed out of that because their church, their home church in Louisiana, sends people all the time. Groups of anywhere from 10 to 30 people can be housed at any time. So they've been going for years and years and years. But we're a newer church, and this will be our first mission trip. So it's going to be a fun trip, but it's also a discovery trip for our church. A discovery trip for our people. And it's fun to be on the first one because I've been there alone, but as a group we've never gone. So I'm going to give you some kind of overarching why we're going, and then we're going to talk about the details. So you might remember this. This is the line that Danielle and I, our family quote from this weekend, said, "So we cared for you because we loved you so much. We were delighted to share not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well." And I just love this because it really is what we're doing. Like, we could send Bibles to Guatemala. We could send money to Guatemala. We could do anything. But we're going. And we're going to keep going because I feel like part of this is sacrificing time for people to know that you came here to serve me. You didn't just send a check, which is what a lot of Americans end up doing. Now, we'll send checks. We'll send money. There's needs to be met. But I love this because as we get back and we share our lives with the people who didn't get to go, it's just kind of, it's going to be perpetual just excitement about this idea of sharing your lives. And so James 1:27 says it's religion. Remember, religion can be a good word or a bad word, right? Religion that God Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: look after the orphans and the widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Well, there's a lot of widows and orphans that are not being served, and so we're going to go serve them. But the problem with living in America sometimes, and I've gone on medical mission trips. I really haven't gone until March, an evangelistic mission trip. But there's something about going to a country that doesn't have as much, with people who don't have as much, where you realize that some of the things in America, the ability to buy anything on Amazon and get it here in 12 hours, right? Is some of that is pollution that we need to get rid of, get out of our system, or to see something new where we can be cleaned up so we can come back and not necessarily give up all this, but understand what it means and put it in context. And so I just love that. So going on a mission trip helps us serve, like what James is telling us to do, but also to clean up our hearts. And then, we all know this line from Luke 10:2, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few." Jesus is saying this: "Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." And we're called to do this in our jobs. We're called to do this here. But we're also called to do this locally and abroad. And I love that a harvest field has already been tilled. It's already been seeded. We get to go and kind of reap a harvest and be a part of that. And so I just absolutely love that we get to do that and have a mission partner that's already been there for 30 years, tilling and watering and seeding the ground. And so we're going to IN ministry. So IN stands for really any school or any ministry that is set up in order to serve the community. That's what that means. And so this is IN Ministries, established in like 1987, I believe. And we're going to go to Guatemala. It's about 5 hours, where we're going 5 hours away from Guatemala City by car. And it's up in the mountains, so it's not hot, it's not desert, it's rainforest, it's cool, it's tropical, but it rains every day. It can get cold in the winter. We're in the middle of the summer, but it's a cool climate to be in. And what are we doing? So why are we going on this trip? And there's a couple reasons that I came up with. First is just to love on people. If we had to do anything, it's to go and share the love of Jesus, to really be there and just love people. And so I don't know. When I was there, when I had a goal for the trip, and about halfway through the trip, and everybody knows the story, a young lady died, a missionary there that had lived there her whole life. It wasn't anything to do with violence or anything. It was a health issue. But she passed away, and my trip changed mid-trip. And so if number one is love on people, and then we'll get to the others, but if you notice, there's no specific in this. We're going to talk about specifics in a second. But the goal of the trip, the vision is to just love and serve people. And then when we get there and we can adjust to things, if things change, if we have to do something different, that we plan to put a roof on a widow's house and we can't do that, well, we're going to serve and we're going to love no matter what. And so love on people. Serve the community. So they've already established roots in the community. There's easy ways to serve right there. We're going to go out of the community into the villages and serve there. But if we decide to love and serve, we can't lose, because people are going to see that. This one I love. We're going to grow closer to God and to each other. And this is why the intimate group of like a dozen people is so cool. Because we're going to get there and we're going to read our Bibles and we're going to pray and we're going to worship. The first thing we do, you'll see in a second, is actually a church service. We're going to go pray with people. Through that process, we're going to get closer to God personally and then as a group. We're going to come back on fire for like what God's doing in these countries. Spiritual things happen more in third world countries, and the reason is because when people hear the gospel for the first time and they're not polluted by this world and maybe doctrinal things and things that they're like, oh, well, those gifts don't exist, or that doesn't, like, things actually happen. And so what's going to be cool is we're going to see some things probably, we might see a healing, we might see like radical life change happen in a moment, like we've sometimes seen at Freedom and other things. That's going to happen. But then we get to travel together, we get to be there together. In the evenings, we're going to kind of recap the day. At the end of the trip, we're going to kind of recap the trip together. We're going to get really close to the group. And so I love that every time a missionary group goes, they come back closer to God and closer to each other. And it's one reason that I think our family might, as a family, travel down. A little bit different setup because of the ages of our kids, not necessarily like what we're doing, but because as a family, how close are we going to get? Being able to be there and be in that idea. Establish long-term relationships in Guatemala. So this is something, until you go, right, you don't know which part of this we're going to connect with. I have some ideas of what's going to be the best part or the most exciting part. It's probably going to be the opposite of what I think or what any of us think, our expectations. But one of the big things is within ministries, and Michael Lewis, who's the father and the pastor, and he started the mission, and Tanya, his wife, and Jed and Nora, their kids, and some of their kids are still there, their other kids. We're going to get to know them really well. We're going to get into relationship with them where I'm hoping we're texting them or WhatsApp or emailing them long after the trip, not even looking forward to the next trip, just connection and personal relationships, because God's going to use those to change lives. And then, final thing, to return home safe, healthy, and changed. And this is something that we'll talk a lot about on the trip. I've actually been reading on how to come home and not just be jaded about this world, the one we're in. Like, you see poverty, you see widows and orphans, and your heart breaks. And then you have to come back, and everything bothers you. It bothers you that we get food all the time. It bothers you that we have new clothes. And just to come home changed, but changed in a way that becomes like a light to this place, excitement for this place, and that you see the positive of being there, and not to look down on what we have here, but to instead just be changed. And I absolutely love that. So that's our vision for going as a group. And so 1 Peter 4:10 says this: each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. So every group that goes should be doing something a little bit differently. Because if there's a cookie-cutter thing to do when you go, then we're not utilizing 1 Peter 4:10. Because we have a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, and then we kind of skip ages to, you're like 28, 30. But we have all ages. We literally have, teens to 40s, 50s, able-bodied, like there's really no disabilities. We won't say. But again, we have this range of ages, and the reason I chose 13, and this was a little bit of controversy about what age, is because we're going to be able to go into almost any environment. There's a little bit of restriction. Any environment with this age, and serve and help and work and have 12-hour days and pour our lives out. There's no restriction. So now, whatever gift, and this is what we're going to talk about through the rest of the time, is what are we going to do? And is there anything that we've all been dreaming about or praying about or God's been saying that we can do? And I think we're going to talk about it tonight. So the scope of the trip is this: Saturday to Saturday. We want to arrive as early as we can on Saturday, because we want to get to San Cristobal on Saturday evenings, because Sunday is this church experience, okay? We're going to be the school on site. We're going to do a lot of visitation there with kids and have some activities with them. But we're also going to go outside the walls. So for everyone to know that the mission is walled in. So it's this, I would say it's probably, if I had to guess, like 20 acres or 30 acres. It's walled though, from the city. So they open the gates every day, in and out, and there's a security guard there. So we're going to leave that as a group and go out to the villages and do some visitation and some activities out there. I'll talk about this in detail in a second. We're going to have a widow service project that we get to decide what we want to do. And then we're actually going to do a half-a-day medical clinic, which I'll talk about in a second. So that's the scope of the trip. That's in 6 days. We're doing all of that. So, Sunday. So we get there Saturday. We're going to have kind of a meeting on Saturday night, a big dinner. You're going to meet all the missionaries. We're going to come together. It's going to be our group, but there's missionaries living there. So they'll all come to that first dinner, see who the team is. We'll talk and celebrate. And then on the Sunday morning, we're going to get together, have breakfast every single day together as a team. And there's going to be some activities to do. And then the kids show up. They know when the new missionaries come. And they open that gate. And all Sundays, just a day on the property. And there's no school, so it's just games on the court. There's activities. There's things that we can do. There's the different things. That's on-site all day. And then they do a 4 p.m. worship service that Pastor Michael, runs, where anywhere from 100 to 250 people come to the church on site. It's all in Spanish. Maria will love this. They do an entire church service. So we actually get to go to church on Sunday. You know, they get to do church here, and we get to do church there. And it's going to be an amazing experience for all of us. So Sunday's this awesome, kind of fun, exciting day. Not a lot of labor. It's just enjoyable. And then, so that's the kind of site. So the church is over this side. This is the school. That road goes back up that hill to where the missionary houses are. The kids are playing on the court. There's a greenhouse on site. It's just a beautiful, beautiful property. And so, the school experience. So this is the school that they've been running for 25 years. It's on site, so we're going to be there helping. So Tanya Lewis is Jed's mother, and she's been there the whole time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to visit some classrooms. You know how exciting it is for some white American people to come sit in your classroom when you're the 8th grade, Guatemalan girl, and you just like love that people are there. Well, we're just going to be present. And what we learn a lot about in missions is, we want to say a lot, but it's actually great to just listen, to be present, to be available. And so we're going to do a lot of that. But we have the opportunity, and this is something we're going to talk about in a minute, to do any sort of arts and crafts we want to do, any sort of activity, any sort of project with the kids. And that'll be this kind of school experience. And then, I know JT's going to love this, I'll love this, they were on the court the entire time I was there. Like, I woke up in the morning, this little boy's out on the court. And the moment they open the gate, they're on the court kicking the ball around. And so that will always be happening. So it's always an opportunity, like, all right, we're done with the craft, I'm going on the court. It would be that opportunity just to go and just be with the kids, because what they want to see in you is someone who cares. You came, you didn't just come to check a box, you came to engage. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So Tanya will have all of this set up for us. We can tell her if we want to do something specific, arts and crafts, and we can maybe bring some supplies. We'll talk about that at the end. But she's going to organize this school. Okay? So, then, this is out at a village. So that's Miss Tanya right there in the hat. This is our translator, because these women speak Pocumchi, and he's a Pocumchi to Spanish translator, and then Jed and I spoke to him in Spanish, and then he spoke to them in Pocumchi. But just beautiful people, beautiful women. The lady in the pink and the green, she owns this property. She's a widow. Most of these are her kids, and then these are women who come to herds to harvest the coffee and do all that. So we're going to go visit the villages. This has been Tanya's her ministry, is the women in the villages. So she knows them all. She knows all the villages. She speaks some Pocumchi, but they all know her. So when Miss Tanya comes, she brings the missionaries, and she kind of sets it up. So she brings food. Like, we'll be able to pack food, go do a distribution. We'll be playing games with the kids. And then this is where if we wanted to decide as a group that we want to put a roof on a widow's house. And this is, sheet metal on top of a concrete block house. Whatever we can do in the time, we could do. She would have it all there, all the equipment. We would just do the labor. This is something we can decide, is there something we want to do while we're there? You'll see in a second, we have a couple other activities. So it would be just as good to go do the food distribution, spend time with the ladies, play games with the kids, just to be available. But if we wanted to put our feet behind the project, it kind of depends on where we settle with how many people we have, that we could do that and pull it off in time. But there's another experience, is this medical clinic experience. And I'll tell you, I got on the phone with Miss Tanya the other day. We had a Zoom call, like a little FaceTime. And it was like 40 minutes while I was at work. It was so much fun to talk with her. She's just the sweetest lady, loves all this. She's the lady who runs the mission with her husband, is in charge of our trip. So she's our contact. She's with us the whole time. So she said, well, who's coming? And I started naming. I said, well, I got a PT. I got a PTOT, coming. I got a nurse. Oh, I got a second nurse. And I'm a doctor. And then we got a bunch of, like, able-bodied people. And she's like, well, what would you think about running a medical clinic for children for half a day at one of the villages? So we would go to a village. She kind of set this up. You'd go to a village. I would announce it before you come. You could set up a room where you do like well-child checks, just check, make sure everything's healthy, give some medical advice, give some exercises, give some healthy diet stuff, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And anyone who's not involved with that, who's not doing the medical side, they would just be there engaging with all the kids, playing games, doing arts and crafts, another project with them. I was like, that sounds like right up our alley for our group. So she got really excited because she doesn't have a lot of medical teams come down. And so with Joe and Mike and Maria and myself, I believe it's going to be awesome. So we're going to be able to collect medical supplies from Palms West. Joe and I are talking to him about that. So Mike and I were talking today, and he was going to take the lead on this. So he's going to organize this in the sense of how we're packing it, how we're getting it there. And he couldn't be here tonight. He's actually at work. But I was talking to him all day today about this, and he is so excited. And Joe's so excited. And I knew Maria would be excited about like healthy kids and stretching and all that kind of stuff, right? And you were my inspiration for actually this clinic, and because you're not gonna do crazy things. I'll bring some sutures. We'll probably treat a lot of worms. Like we'll have albendazole. We're gonna do gummy vitamins. We'll distribute a little pack to every kid, and we're gonna the biggest thing is we're gonna do a lot of reassurance and guidance. Like, you're doing great, Mom. You get your 7 kids. They're all doing great. He needs to walk more. That kind of thing. But the beauty is, because of the authority of, like, we're going to wear some scrubs that day, the authority of coming in and encouraging in that, with that authority, Tanya says it just goes so far. And they'll talk about it for months and months and months, about when the doctor and the nurses and the people came, right? And so we'll all kind of be at the same level in that. Not everyone's getting referred to me in the clinic. It's going to be anyone who's going to be in the clinic is going to do the check themselves, and it's going to be fun. So I was really excited about that, and I'm really going to talk to the HCA and Vision team about, hey, what can you send with us? And see what we can get. So that's a kind of fun thing. We're going to do that on one of the days in the villages. So it'll kind of be a whole day in the village. We'll do a half-a-day clinic, some big activity in the afternoon. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then we get to this. So the cost of the trip. The reason the 10 to 12 to 30 is the number is because to host, you have to have a mass effect. Like, you have to have a certain amount to get the bus to the airport and back and have the cost available. So it's $950 plus air travel. And this includes everything. So the food, the lodging, the activities, all the things. If we want to add to that with certain materials, certain things we want to bring, we're going to pack that away and bring it. Or if we want to send some money ahead to buy the roof for the widow, we can do that. And we'll talk about that. And that would be, the church would cover that expense. So for us, this is what we're costing. But the last day we'll be in Guatemala City waiting for our plane. We're going to go to an outdoor air market. So it'd be things like you want to buy gifts, that sort of thing. We'll have an opportunity to do that. So that would be a personal expense to bring for that. And then, moving on. So, the mission house. So this was a house that they built over time. So they built a small house, then they added on this room, they added on a garage, and then that converted into another room. They set the second floor. So it's actually a very interesting house. It's huge, and it sleeps 30 people. So Miss Tanya will be in charge of this. The moment we have our settled names, demographics, sexes, ages, all that, we'll send that all to her. And I'm actually going to let Maria be kind of head some of this up, is how to split this up. Everyone will have their own bed. No one will share a bed unless you want to share a bed, you two. But it was amazing. Like, I went in there and no one was staying at the time I was there, and so I walked through the house and it was beautiful. It was like a bed and breakfast, And so it's great accommodations. They have a washer and dryer that the missionaries use usually once a week, like in the middle of the week. If you get messy, you can use that. And then all the meals are eaten as a group in this big community room that's in the house. And so it's a lot of fun, a lot of engagement. And so Jed and Nora live up on the hill about 100 yards away with their family. But Michael and Tanya live in this house. So they share their home with all the missionaries. So the kitchen is a shared kitchen. And so it's a cool space, really exciting. to have that opportunity. So, these are the things they're not going to provide us. So, things we need to bring, and I'm going to send this out, and I'm going to print this, and you don't have to plan this yet, but all of our own toiletries and soap, and because they just can't keep that up. One thing I thought was kind of neat, you bring a towel and you leave it, so that they just, they give them away, they have them for extra, so that's kind of a cool thing. Work clothes, closed-toe shoes. On our next meeting, that's more of a training, I'll tell you kind of what clothes. I actually was mistaken. You can wear shorts, but they kind of have to be to your knee. The women in this culture, the Mayan women, they all wear skirts, long skirts. The legs are much more attractive than the chest in this culture. And so chests are kind of exposed, but legs could never be exposed. So with our ladies who are on the trip, it's going to be, we want to cover our legs. Exactly. So some good work jeans would be good. I cannot wear my short shorts. So, but personal medicines, insect repellent, hat, sunglasses, a camera. Obviously, smaller cameras would be great. I'm gonna Jack and Sonia aren't going. I know Jack's a big photographer, so I'm putting Annika in charge of documenting our whole trip. Annika, you're in charge of documenting the whole trip.
Okay.
So that not everyone has to bring a big camera. Like, small cameras, is fine. Notebook and pens. We are going to spend time reading our Bibles and journaling, and there'll be some directed kind of like, hey, how's God speaking to you today? Like, how'd that experience? Hopefully every night you're sitting down just like journaling about the day, just so you remember it, and you can let God, a rain jacket. It does rain every day, so like a good poncho type jacket, flashlight. You're not going to be leaving the house at night, so really that's more of I think if you're going from one missionary house to another, but we won't be doing that. Any snacks you really want, that would be like, I need, like JT's metabolism is so high, JT might need a Cliff Bar, in the middle of the night. Yeah, so he can pack some Cliff Bars, and then spending money. You have to convert your money, they don't take dollars there, and we can do that when we're there, we don't have to do that before. But, yeah, so the team supplies, this is what we're going to bring. So, we're going to build medical kits. We're going to build supplies, and that's something that Mike and I will kind of head up. But there's these fun things that the kids just lose their minds, and you can bring these. They're illegal to bring in. So bubbles, like small little packs of bubbles. Chalk, like sidewalk chalk. You think it's just, you can buy it at any Walmart. You can't get chalk. You bring chalk to this place, your chalk's gone. So we've got to figure out how to get it in. Chewable vitamins. So this is something that we're going to actually have to split up into all of the checked bags, into small portions. You're not going to get in trouble for it, but it is one of those things where gummies have become a bad rap in the world. So they can have some bad drugs in them, so they don't like that. So we're going to keep them in sealed small containers, so like sealed, so we're not in trouble. But you kind of have to split all that up. We can't have one bag of gummies, right? So we'll do that. And you'll love this, deflated sports balls. The more we can bring, the better. So it's just like soccer balls, basketballs. And this is stuff that the church is going to provide this. And so it's just going to be like, JT be in charge of, hey, JT, we need a couple soccer balls in. Take my car, go to Walmart. We'll do some fun things where he'll get to go buy some stuff. Teacher supplies, they're always short on the things that we take for granted. Pens, pencils, paper. And so we'll talk about that. Arts and crafts gifts. If we're going to do a project, like the arts and crafts project, we'll bring all the supplies for that specific project. And then safety equipment. This is more like work stuff, like work goggles, work gloves. If we want to buy a bunch of, mechanics gloves, from Lowe's before we go. Mm-hmm. But keep in mind, we want to travel light so we can give away. So,
right.
My friends who used to go on a lot of mission trips, they would take a bag, they would bring back an empty bag. Everything that was in their bag, their clothes, everything, they're pretty much giving away. And so that's when we talk with Tanya on our FaceTime call. This is where some of those questions should be asked. Like, what should we bring? Like, what's the best thing to give away? What's the best thing to... Because you got to be careful. Giving away free things is not always the best thing to do when you're on a mission trip. It can actually create problems for them when we leave. When the Americans come, they just give away stuff, right? Because then they just come begging. So we'll talk to Miss Tanya about the best way to do that. But that's some ideas there. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun to start packing, start doing that. And this is the biggest thing I want to say, is the goal of going is not any sort of activity. It's not any sort of project. we could send $5,000 and they can build a widow's house. It's to be there. And this is something that when people are hurting, they don't need you to tell them something. They need you to be there, right? When we had those friends who lost a baby, there was nothing to say. It was just to be there. You had to say some stuff, but it's better just to be there. So we're going on a mission trip to be there and to be the hands and feet of Jesus and to be this message to them, because they are a foreign culture. It's a pagan, Mayan, Indian. If you go back in the history, like what was there before these missionaries came in 30 years ago was awful. And slowly over time, they've been present. They moved there. This is the biggest thing, right? They committed their whole lives to these people in San Cristobal, like for these people. And so we're going for a short time, so we want to be present the whole time. Like we want to be there. And so this is something where some of our leaders that aren't going, Daniel's obviously doesn't get to go this time, but like some of the other leaders, like church is going to run without me, without us, and I'm not going to worry about it because I want to be present, right? I don't want to have to check in. So that's our goal, is to be present during this trip. And so it's a lot of prep of like, how are we, there is Wi-Fi, but I want you to do as much as you can before you go. Maybe you got it on a Wednesday night, get on one little email because you have to, but let's tie up all the loose ends so that when we're there, we're present. So, and then I think what I'll do is I'll make sure that we have good communication so that everyone who's staying back knows we're safe, know we've arrived. We'll have those. And WhatsApp is an app that I've never used until I went. Very good. It's through your phone number and it's like immediate. So, so what's next? So Maria has, I talked to her today, and so I needed really a logistics person. So Mike's going to handle the medical clinic, just making sure that we have everything we need for that. But in the sense of tickets, talking to Tanya more than I'm going to be able to talk to her, making sure we're all good, making sure everyone's emails, like we're all communicating well. Maria, I asked her if she would be willing to kind of be my point person on that, and she was more than happy to do that. So she's going to be reaching out. I'm going to send one email with all the info of all the people who are going, and then Maria will be kind of sending emails and emails and emails. But this is one thing. So Corey doesn't have her passport yet. It's on its way. JT doesn't have his passport yet. It's on its way. You need to check your passport. But Joe's has to get his passport renewed. So we have a passport's a big deal. I think you can buy the tickets without the number of your passport, but I think it's harder to do it. I think a lot of times in international travel want you to put your passport number in before you can purchase the ticket. So this is something logistically we got to figure out. We might not have Corey's number for 3 or 4 more weeks, even though she'll be able to go on a trip. Are we gonna have to buy the tickets in 2 waves, and this is what I would say. We need to come up with we'll come up with an average cost of what the plane is going to be, and that will be the cost. And I believe the church will then, if we have to do something where mix and we'll cover that. Because it'd be hard if everyone gets to go and we're missing one ticket and that ticket's $700. Well, this is part of the cost of going. So I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable with that. We're gonna get, so we need passport numbers, we need birth dates, all that. That's what the application was for, was to get all the information. We're gonna purchase the plane tickets in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think that's the right window of time to do it. I think we're 7 weeks out, right? 7 weeks out? 7 weeks out from leaving. Isn't that crazy to think how close that is? And so we need to get them a month out at least. And sometimes they drop in that month before, so I'm not really worried about the cost of the plane tickets in the sense of they don't ever skyrocket because it's the same flight every day, like it's been done forever. But I think, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we need to solidify the tickets being purchased. And then we're going to start gathering supplies, both the medical and recreation supplies. So those are the arts and crafts and stuff. So this is where we get to start talking about what we're doing. So on Monday, June 19th, Tanya wanted to call with the whole team. So I'm going to set up a Zoom call so you don't have to be here. You can all be on the Zoom call with Tanya. And it'll be a lot of fun to get on that. It'll probably be 30 or... What is it?
It's Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
Federal holiday.
But that's not according to, when did you go, that's in July.
That date can change,
No,
so
it's
you guys
okay.
can talk about it.
Yeah.
So we need to get on a call with her because she wants to give us some vision for what she wants it to be. And I think once you hear from her, you'll be really excited. Then, June 26th is this training night that it's a little bit a month before. We should have our tickets, or that would be the last minute. Like, if we haven't bought them, we should be buying these tickets. Are we hot? I think we need to turn the air on.
No,
Okay,
it's
she's
not.
taking her jacket off. I'm just saying.
I know.
All right.
It's
And
not
and this will be where we kind of go over a packing list, where I actually give you a checkbox packing list, and we're gonna collect the cost of the trip at that point. The church is gonna probably buy all the plane tickets at one time, just on one purchase, and I'll send in ministries the cost of the trip in one payment, and then we'll collect from everybody, right? So not everyone's sending individual checks. And then this is one of my most exciting things. On Friday, July 21st at 5 p.m., we're going to do a dinner here with all the families. So everyone gets to say bye, everyone gets to celebrate what we're doing, pray, worship, all of that. And so I'm really excited about that moment. So this is kind of our schedule out. Obviously, there'll be a lot of communication in between this, but that's kind of what we're looking at. It's coming up quick. I mean, it's 7 weeks away. So I just want to reassure us that Miss Tanya it's going to be an amazing trip. Whatever we can put together on this end of it, great. It will be an amazing experience. A lot of opportunity to serve and love on people. And so there's stuff for us to do, but in reality, we're going to be there and be present, right? So I don't want the pressure to do it. I want to get it done. I want to get all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, but I want to also go and just be able to be available. So that is that. And so now this is the top of the hill. That's San Cristobal, and this is the pagan mountain. There's a temple behind me of pagan worship. And then they established this cross back in like early 2000s, and no one's burnt it down yet. So they're making waves in the culture. So that is the end of my spiel, and then I just want to answer questions, and I want to actually brainstorm a little bit.